Welcome. I'm Amy Taylor-Kabbaz, and this is the Happy Mama Movement podcast, a podcast dedicated to bringing the groundbreaking insights of matrescence to the world through interviews with leading experts, mamas, and those who are dedicated to making sure mothers are supported differently. These are our stories and your stories. Thank you for being a part of the Matrescence movement. Divine Lucy, thank you for joining me on the podcast. I'm so incredibly excited to speak to you and in such awe of your courage and the story that you're about to share. Thank you, beautiful.
Thank you for having me. I'm so grateful to be here and talk with you and share.
So I think it's best for us to go back to talk about the birth that you experienced and the trauma you experienced first, and then really sort of take the path of what transpired after that and what you want everybody to know and to understand. So can you take us back to your experience of becoming a mother?
Sure. So 2014, I was expecting Matilda to arrive, and it took days and days and days in labour. I was in labour for overall 5 days. Started on a Monday. She came the Sunday morning. So
Oh,
nearly a full, nearly a full week. And what was part of the trauma was I hoped, prepared for, and expected birth to be so very different. And I've since learned in all of my growth and healing that the trauma can be significant, so significant when we expect one thing or have prepared for one thing and it's so desperately different. And that was me, because I was so looking forward to birth, so empowered, so in tune with my body. And yeah, day after day went by. So I can still kind of picture myself going, really, I'm having a C-section. And not that that's a bad thing, but like I hoped, prepared for, as I say, all these things, that I'd be able to have my baby at home in the birth pool. And so yeah, to be in pain for that long was horrendous. And I can remember, and as you know, I've written numerous poems, but I can remember the feeling of the pain going away, the injection into my back, and lying back and feeling pain-free for the first time in days. Yeah, it was epic. And I think, yeah, carry on. Were you going to say something?
I was going to say also, because you, as your background as a dancer and how much you were almost connected to your body and
Mm,
had this identity of strength in your body, I would
mm,
imagine that there
mm.
was that extra layer of, I thought I knew what my body could do and it's not doing it. I think that would have been an impact as well, right?
100%. Yeah. Yeah. I really felt like my body had failed me. And yeah, it was really staggering to not feel like that, well, to feel like that could have gone better, but why didn't it? And I love the work of Jane Hardwick Collins. And one of the lines, and I told her the other day, actually, we exchanged a couple of DMs on Instagram. I said to her, the line that you have shared about we have the type of birth we're meant to have to become the woman we are was
Mm.
so healing for me. Like I already kind of knew it, and I was already saying the experience has led me to who I am and where I am today. But that was just gorgeous from her.
Mm.
So yeah, incredibly powerful. But I think what also led to the trauma was C-section. It was an emergency C-section, and during that they plunged too deep with the incision and they cut my bladder by mistake. So I had to have a catheter for a month, and then I
Oh,
had a womb infection, and then I had panic attacks very soon after having Matilda. Really, I think it was all the aftermath of what had happened in the hospital.
mm.
Um, and to not have support at home was, as you can imagine, incredibly difficult. I think, yeah, it was one thing after another. Like I say, the catheter. And what was funny was that, not funny, obviously, but like someone came in and said, you're going to have the catheter for a week. And then they updated that and said it's for a month. And my heart just sank. I had to go around with obviously this bag of piss attached to my leg. And it was
Mm.
just the most different start to motherhood I could ever imagine.
And what did that do to you?
It fucking, oh God, was just so fragile. I was going to say it crumbled parts of me for sure. And it meant that I was really, really destabilized. It also meant that I wasn't able to properly kind of fall in love with my baby yet because I was still concerned for my health.
Mm. And that brings its own layer of guilt, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
When
It
you
was
think about
intense.
that version of yourself walking around with that bag.
Mm. Yeah. I do still feel a little bit tender for her. Yeah.
Mm.
She was doing her best. Baby needing her and all of those things. And yeah, I cried when I saw my C-section scar. It was just all such a tender time. Absolutely shook my world.
And with that process, with what you experienced and that incredible trauma and the physical recovery, how did that play out in your life and your relationship?
It was incredibly hard. I didn't have support at home, and one of the things that's very visual, again, another memory, is my ex-husband, my daughter's dad, being grumpy when I asked for my painkillers at whatever time of night that was. And he pulled the door back suddenly and sort of, yeah, in a total grump. And that's not the attitude that anyone should have, especially a new mum, especially a new mum who can't move because the catheter was attached to the bed at that point in the night. And it was ever so destructive, really, to not be supported in such a tender state, but to be treated with such nastiness was so horrible. And I think I was in denial about it for a long time. I really was. And it's always been down to me to figure out what's going on for me. Like, I sought out therapy. I realized I had PTSD. And yeah, and ever since, really, to sort of find my way with my healing journey. And it's been incredible, obviously, the journey of post-traumatic growth and things, but back then it was so fucking hard, and no wonder I've poured poems from my heart onto the page to sort of to share with others so that they hopefully don't have to go through this, because it
Mm.
is, sadly, as we've said before recording, pretty fucking common.
Yeah. I want to get into the specifics about what happened after that. But I also want to just take a moment and ask you about how you feel about the lack of systematic support. So, okay, you didn't have family support and you had a partner who wasn't going to, who did not show up the way that you needed. But I also feel this great anger
Mm,
towards a medical system
mm.
that did not provide what you needed after such an incredibly traumatic experience to make sure that you're okay either.
Yeah, it is so sad, and obviously that's why I'm so passionate about what I do today, the systemic and the societal bullshit that we have to navigate. So I think, on the positive, I did have something called Birth Stories, which allowed me to go through why what happened, and that was really helpful. And Hmm, not re-triggering, but it was very stirring to find out why they cut too deep, because I was going to complain that they'd cut my bladder. But when I learned that it was because Matilda's heart rate plummeted and they had to work quickly, I was like, that's fine. I don't
Wow.
mind. Thank you. It was, yeah, I cried in that session. It was really healing and helpful to hear that. Because
So, can you
before that,
explain to everybody what that process is? What is birth stories?
yeah, not everywhere has it. So in Brighton,
Mm,
where I had Matilda, they had a session where you can book to speak with a midwife who has your notes and talks through bit by bit what happened.
mm,
And yeah, it was huge to realize that. And yeah, recounting that to different people over the years has been like, wow, yeah, of course they did. I totally forgive. Yeah, because before I learned that, I was quite angry. I was like, how the fuck could they do that? Like, I already had enough going on without
mm,
the bladder incision. And
mm,
actually, oh yeah, so that's another part. So because my bladder was cut, I had to have a catheter, as I say. And then a month after having Matilda, I had to go to the hospital and spend several hours there drinking and weeing to make sure that my bladder was working properly. And my mum had to be there. She was probably there again helping me with Tilly, but I had to have my mum's help. And also, what was fucking nuts about being in labour for so long was that my mum was able to come from Reading, which was 2 hours from Brighton. I phoned her. She hadn't slept because she was worried about me. And she was like, "We need you. It's like day 4 or 5 now." And she came down and she was by my side. And she was, one of the first people to hold Matilda because of the
Wow.
length of time, which was so precious.
And what I hear you saying is that sometimes we just need somebody to listen and work through the story with us so that
Mm,
we can understand it. And that is so often what is missing, whether it's
yeah.
an incredibly traumatic story like yours or even just I know a mama I coached for a while whose birth was so fast. And everybody around her was saying, "Oh, but that's so lucky. You didn't go through all of that experience of days of labor." But to her, it was so traumatic. She was not
Mm,
ready. It tore everything on its way.
mm,
And she just needed, again, this beautiful midwife with the notes to sit there and talk it through and allow her to process it, because that's the part that we don't get to do.
yeah.
And when we don't get to process it, it's stored in our
Yeah.
bodies, right? I
Yeah.
mean, you are a yoga teacher, you have done so much body work and body healing. So, what happens when you have these big moments, these big events, these big experiences in our body, and you don't get to process it? How did it show up for you over the coming years? In particular, around your own nervous system, your own advocacy for yourself.
Mm. I just want to answer slightly the previous question in that, like, the systemic stuff. So, yes, I had that session, but I think the naivety around how much a woman can be affected by birth is still so huge,
Mm.
and always has been, really. I feel, because it wasn't like I was given information on birth trauma. It took my own research and finding Dr. Rebecca Moore on Instagram to realize I was experiencing birth trauma, and that was so huge. To follow
Yeah.
her and to find her, and she let me send her DMs. Has been incredibly supportive, and she knows that. And I actually got to meet her for real a couple of years ago at the birth trauma conference and have a hug, and it was amazing. But yeah, the trauma coming out through my body in different ways over the years, I noticed that I was tetchy and holding a lot of pain, really. And I noticed that in my mothering, not in a excuse me, not in a hostile way at all, but just short-tempered with Matilda, and also feeling like, why the fuck is everything down to me? It was incredibly painful to realize that, yeah, I had good friends, but the support should have been there at home. And also, societally, I think there needs to be more recognition of how tender a mum can be, instead of, "Oh, can I come and look at the baby? How old are they?" Just really fuck off.
Mm.
And this is why
I love you.
I love you. I said this in a podcast recently, how if we had a village, we'd have someone who probably says she just needs some space. They
Yeah.
wouldn't let them come near, because we really don't need that. I just was like, please, I'm just waddling after having a C-section, and yeah, but also, like, big outbursts. Like, I sought out different ways of healing and helping myself. So I went up to London and did something called transformational breath, and that was just epic in the way that it released a fuck ton of trauma. I knew I had it from the birth. I knew I had it from the lack of support at home. And I did a workshop with a lady I used to know from a gym I worked at in London, Rebecca um, Dennis. And to be honest, if I don't know if anyone knows this method, but it was kind of like exorcism. Like,
Mm.
you move and you breathe a certain way, and huge tears, huge release came up that day. And I felt exhausted afterwards. It was so helpful and so powerful.
I've always admired your deep commitment to doing the work for yourself, Lucy. I've seen that over the last few years of you being in my world, and it's just so incredibly inspiring. But
Thanks.
also, I think it's important for everyone who's listening to acknowledge that you had to seek this out. There was an internal commitment,
Mm.
even when you were so broken, even when it was so incredibly scary and traumatic, that you were going to find a way to be okay again.
Yeah. Thank you. That means a lot because I'm only 5 years on from all the very difficult stuff that happened for me, and healing is cyclical and stuff does still come up.
Of
And
course.
that's the way it is, and it will for a long time yet. And I now honor that process. And there are moments when I have pure rage. And I don't think I've had a chance to tell you, but last year I embarked on doing burlesque, and it's been so healing for me, so helpful, so amazing. And in my solo piece, which I performed last November, there was a moment where I did what's called a stocking peel. Like I took a stocking off, and
Oh, yes.
yeah, it was so fun. In time with the music, like it couldn't have been better. I was so happy. And I got up from that and I was happy. So I raised my arms. But then, and my teacher, Celeste, had said, if you want to make a sound, if you want to let something primal and raw out in the moment, then do. And fuck me, I slammed my fists down on the stage. I'll have to send you the clip because it is genuinely the rage for all the women who've been through similar to me. It is so powerful. And I sent it to some friends who are also domestic abuse survivors, and they were they welled up. They found it so moving because it's
Yeah,
raw, fucking raw.
that makes me emotional hearing you and imagining that.
Mm,
You're incredible. So
thank you.
let's move towards that story of what
Mm,
happened with your partner after the father of Matilda and that relationship had ended.
mm,
I also just think it's important for everybody listening to know that Lucy and I have checked in with each other and that Lucy is fully ready and okay to share this story. I think it's always really important for the listener to know that this is okay for us to talk about as well. So,
mm.
can you share with us what happened?
Yeah. So, and again, I think the significance of the trauma, the weight of it, is partly because I felt safe. I felt held by this partner, and it absolutely plummeted, turned on its head, and he was an absolute monster. So I realized a while after, through my healing, that he had groomed me for a while, and he went from, well, the situation went from, gosh, you're unhappy in your marriage, come and be with me. I hear you. You've been doing so well, and let me support you. Let me support you in every way. And excuse me, and that came into a little bit of control. And I began to see the red flags of the control when he said stuff like, "Why can't you just let me handle things?" And I can picture where I was by the riverside here in Reading when he said that, because I just knew there was an instinct in me that knew that I had to protect me, I had to protect my daughter. But yeah, so I felt safe and supported, and then he became abusive and verbally abusive, physically abusive. And it's, to be, as I always am, and I'm happy to be here, totally honest, it only dawned on me really through the news, with Giselle Pellico sharing her story, the weight of what I've been through. Can I be explicit in what I've said?
Yes, of
Yeah.
course.
he he hit me and he raped me, and I was in total, well, not total, I was in denial about that until January this year. And I realize now that I need therapy specifically for that, because I actually thought the other therapy was going to touch on that. But because it's been too big to process until now, my body's just tucked it away. And that's where the beauty in knowing our body comes up. I've been honoring it and going, yeah. And to be honest, the burlesque probably sort of helped
Yeah.
unravel. Yeah, it really did.
It's so incredible. And I mean that genuinely. It's so incredible, but also terrifying that we can be experiencing something and not fully be present with it
Mm.
because we're trying to survive,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that it's almost tucked away in this corner of our
Mm.
memory in our body somewhere. And then when we later on, perhaps, or at some stage, we start sort of remembering and putting it into perspective and seeing what it really was. I think so often, I know so often with women, there is a lot of shame and judgment on themselves when they
Mm.
look back and think, yeah, but I didn't do anything about it at the time. I just, like I didn't even see it. I didn't even acknowledge it. I didn't name it.
Yeah.
But in my own understanding of this, that is a deep self-preservation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That what you do at the time, especially if you've been through something traumatic, especially if you haven't rebuilt your nervous system yet, especially if he promised to be the safe and supportive space and then turned, it's totally normal in a way
Mm-hmm.
to just do what you need to do to get through and not realize until afterwards. Can I get
Mm.
your thoughts and reflections on that realization and almost the lights coming on and realizing, oh my God, that's what was happening?
Yeah. Yeah. And I realized through listening to The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk that that's exactly what happens. We can disassociate or dissociate. That's it. And it's yeah, as you say, it's the body protecting itself from the severity of the situation. And I
And that's
think,
okay.
yeah, absolutely. And again, like I love the relationship I have with my body now, from feeling like it failed me 10 years ago, because Matilda's 10 now, um, to just being like, no, I hear every signal that you're giving me, whether I'm, yeah, yeah, it's really precious. And I'm looking forward to writing more poems on that theme, about that connection, that listening that I've built on. Yeah.
Mm. I know
Um,
you're also really passionate about turning, and it's incredibly hard, but making sure that women realize that the shame around this is theirs, not ours. And that's kind of what I was referring to as well just then, about
mm,
how if we're judging ourselves for being in that situation, I invited him to my home, I had a baby with him, I did all of this. There was a vulnerability in you at that time.
mm,
And what happened is not your fault, it's
mm,
theirs.
mm,
And to really start advocating for ourselves in that, um, I think that is often where the block is as well, is that we feel that there's a level of responsibility on us to have not got
totally.
ourselves into that.
Totally. Yeah, totally. I love that you've brought that up, because I think it's so much about the vulnerable me after birth, and the fact that I wasn't a better advocate for myself, but I forgive myself, because really a partner should fucking be supportive, and everyone around them, really. And that's the thing, like my family did their best, but no one was there to say, it's not that healthy relationship, Luce. Like yeah, he this, or, I had good friends, but it's always been down to me to be the one with the magnifying glass going, oh, yeah, it's not the healthiest response, is it? It's not super positive. And yeah, my wonderful boyfriend, Rolly, said, um, you're, y- well, I'd said to him, I don't think any partner's ever brought me tea or coffee in bed before him. And he's like, it's just fucking crazy. Like, these gestures are so simple. And it means so much.
But if
And
you've never had it,
yeah.
if you've never had that level of support, if you've gone through your whole life having to do it yourself anyway, especially then becoming a mother and being
Mm,
so isolated and lonely and having to fight for yourself, then
mm,
it's like you're programmed in a way. I don't know if
mm,
that's the right use of words, but it's just what is landing at the moment. There's like a programming of, this is the way it's just done this way. I can't expect anything else.
yeah.
So, I just really love the honesty you bring to this, so we can all forgive ourselves for the
Mm,
things that sometimes we find ourselves in. This isn't the way that it was meant to be. And it's comes all the way back to how we were supported through the hardest time, like a
mm,
birth.
yeah. So, yeah, I think it's helpful to share that I had an affair and I have worked through the shame that I had about that. For a long time I did, and it's felt really great to process it. I've got on my shelf the book, I'm not sure what it's called, by Esther Perel,
Oh,
um,
yes.
to help sort of validate why I did what I did. And I know now through not just reading and research, but telling friends and them not judging me at all and saying, I'm not surprised. So I want to share this because I sought out comfort because I wasn't being seen or heard or supported at home, and I think it's only fucking natural as a self-preservation to reach out to a friend. And to begin with, it was just talking, and it was just what I fucking needed at home because things were so difficult, and then it led to more, and then that is the guy who groomed me and turned it into this monster. And I'd known him for so long. I'd known him for like 13, 14 years. So it was so crazy to have that contrast of behavior. And it's still weird to sort of think back like how he turned and whether he'd always been fucking horrible or what exactly.
Mm. And just knowing that sometimes we do that for not self-preservation, but for this desperate need to be seen and acknowledged in a way that we're not receiving at the time.
Absolutely. It really is that. And I think, yes, some people could call me a slut, some people could call me whatever. And I don't care because I know that it was to feel some type of joy, to have a
Mm,
conversation with someone who is ready to listen, who is
mm,
ready to hear me download at the end of a day.
mm,
Not just to get some kicks, not just to have sex. It really wasn't. That came
mm,
secondary because as humans, we fucking need to feel seen and heard. And that's what I was craving for.
mm. Just want to say again, the amount that you have worked through for yourself, beautiful. The healing that I have witnessed in you is just so incredible. And I'm so grateful and thrilled for the world that you have done that and are now able to share this. When you think about your work now with Matrescence and supporting mothers, and in particular the mothers that have been through a domestic violence relationship or have experienced situations like this, what do you want them most to know?
Firstly, I'd like to say thank you. And well, yeah, just thank you so much because I really have done so much work, and it's probably obvious, but that work has meant I've been on my knees emotionally. I've been fucking broken, face swollen with tears, heart aching with grief and pain and all the things. So it has been monumental, and I'm really very proud of myself. Obviously,
Mm,
that dips when I have a shit day and I'm like, oh God, everything's so difficult. And I do feel very wounded still, but only momentarily. And then I realize what the fuck I've been through and how I've overcome that. And my lovely boyfriend told me about shield maidens a few years ago and said, you're a shield maiden. And had to, he explained and I had to look it up. But I'm like, yeah, I really am. And then I've written a poem called Shield Maiden Mama. But to answer your other question, I would say this stuff I realize sort of because I like taking ownership of my part in stuff. So yes, I had an affair, and yes, my boundaries were shit, and yes, I wasn't assertive. I was a people pleaser, and I call myself a recovering people pleaser now. That I think it's important to know that we have to, at some point, say, I need to advocate for myself and I need to improve my boundaries and I need to have a true support circle that has my back without toxic behavior. Because if we could all spot the bullshit more often, more sooner,
mm,
then so much of this would be preventable. And of course, it's breaking so societal and cultural norms of no, it's okay, and putting on a front and masking stuff. But like I've said it before, like I'm not afraid to rock boats. I'm not
mm,
afraid for things to be awkward. 5 years ago and more, I would not have dared. But
mm,
like I've just experienced this and seen it too often. And it doesn't mean that I'm a sassy cow and I've got like rage just under the surface, ready to let rip. Not at all. I feel that I am gritty and graceful, as Brené Brown says. Yeah, thanks. And because it's just so powerful to be assertive, and women can be labelled as bitchy or whatever when we're actually just strong and we won't put up with shit for ourselves nor our family.
And I think what is so incredible about you and the example that you show so many of us is that, Lucy, I can't even imagine you not being this fierce version of yourself. Like, I can't even imagine that previous self because you have worked through so much and embody this so much. So I say that for anybody who's listening who feels like they're hearing you and the fierceness in your voice and the certainty and the steadiness, that it's possible to transform into this version of yourself no matter what, is what I think you exemplate. So that's not a word, but you know what I mean. So beautifully.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot because, I think it was only the last few days where I've realised really that it was a former version of me. You know, there was almost like some people say like a death of a former self. And that has happened in stages, I suppose, over the last few years. And like I say, the burlesque and writing poetry, these have all been sort of helping me to shed and unravel the different facets of me and the different facets of the wounding that there may still be. But it's so powerful to have been, to have been through what I have and risen and to be able to tell the story and so regularly see others who will say, "Oh, sorry, I rambled." And I'm like, you don't need to say sorry. You can take up space and look how brilliant you are and listen to what you've just said. You're fucking brilliant. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise, you know?
Oh, that apologising for taking up space. I have found myself doing it with my therapist. Oh, sorry, I'm talking too much. And she just laughs at me now and, I'm catching myself. But what this programming is just, it's so ingrained.
Yeah.
And it's there for all of us in so many different ways.
Yeah.
And yet, through whatever we have been through, there are ways for us to reclaim ourselves and to find this new version of ourselves. Your writing is incredible. You've sent me many poems over the years. I'm going to put the links to everything that we can share about you and your work in the show notes.
Thank you.
Sorry that we couldn't have 3 hours together because I know the depth of your story and your healing and what you now know is so incredible. But I know that you'll be hearing from many mamas who listen to this and saying, thank you, that's me, or that was me. So thank you, beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you for being the gorgeous speaker and person and woman and mama that you are. And thank you for having me. It means so much to, again, speak with you and to share this.
And really celebrating your voice in this space. I know that this is what you wanted to be able to do. And so really marking this moment with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, beautiful.
Thank you.